Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, beautiful people. Welcome back again to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking. Thanks for coming back. If you are new here, you're welcome. My new subscribers, jazakumullahu khairan. Thanks for subscribing. And please, if you haven't subscribed yet, consider subscribing, like my videos, share with your friends and families. Comment down below. I'll really appreciate. So, inshallah, in today's video, I want to talk about Sahw. This sujud, actually, many people don't know the rulings concerning Sahw. So, inshallah, in today's video, I'm going to be telling you everything you need to know about Sahw. If I can't make it up in this video, inshallah, it's going to be on episodes. So, we'll have episode 1, episode 2, till when I complete the topic, inshallah. But make sure you don't miss any of this episode. Okay, so you understand everything clearly, inshallah. So, some people don't know how to do it. Even some people perform Sahw when it is not necessary, when it is not compulsory for them. While some people leave it when it is obligatory upon them. And some people perform Sahw before Salam, even when it's supposed to be after Salam. While some performed it after Salam in a case where it's supposed to be before Salam. So, how do you know when to do Sahw? Is it before Salam or after Salam? When can you do it before Salam? And when can you do it after Salam? When is it obligatory for you? And when is it not necessary? So, inshallah, everything will be explained in this video. Especially for the imams, those leading the people in prayer. They also need to know and understand the rulings of Sahw. So that if they make any mistake in Salat, they will know how to compensate it and how to keep up with their prayers even when people are behind them. So, and also for the people behind the Imam, how do you do if the Imam makes a mistake? How do you perform Sahw behind your Imam if he makes a mistake? So, inshallah, everything will be explained in this video. Just keep watching and stay tuned. Jazakumullahu khairan. So now let's talk about Sahw. What is Sahw? Sahw is the prostration for forgetfulness. So if you forget in Salat, you need to make this compensation. You have to make Sahw to make up for what mistake you've done. So whenever a person praying makes any mistake or any mistake occur during Salat, during prayer, then this person needs to compensate the mistake. You don't have to cut your Salat or stop praying. No, just continue praying and then you compensate your mistake with this prostration. So the prostration you do is what we call Sahw because you do it due to forgetfulness. So if you forget anything in Salat, maybe you forget from the pillar or from the obligation of Salat, or maybe you increased in Salat, you forgot. Anything you do forgetfully, because the meaning of Sahw is to forget, like you forgot it. So then you have to do Sahw. So after doing this Sahw, your Salat is valid. No mistake anymore, because this Sahw is going to make up for your mistake. So Sahw is the two prostration a person praying makes in order to compensate the mistake occurring in his Salat. You understand? So any mistake that occurs in your Salat, this Sahw is how to compensate that mistake, to make up for that mistake. So what are the 3 causes for Sahw? Sahw has 3 causes. 3 things that makes you perform Sahw is that, number 1, adding something to your Salat. Like, let's say, for instance, the Salat that has 4 units, like Salatul Dhuhr or Asr, is just 4 units. And then you forgot, you added 1 more. So you prayed 5. In this case, you've added something to your Salat. And that 5 is the cause of you performing Sahw. So adding to your Salat can be from the rak'ah, the unit. And also, you will do Sahw if you add to the pillars of Salat. What are the pillars of Salat? We have 14 pillars of Salat, which number 1 is standing. If you want to pray, you have to stand if you have the ability to stand. So Allah says in the Quran, وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. So it is compulsory for every Muslim praying to stand up and pray. Are you getting it? So standing is one of the pillars of Salat. And the second pillar for Salat is Takbiratul Ihram. Takbiratul Ihram is the opening takbir. Before you start salat, you say Allahu Akbar. You say this takbir is a must for anyone praying the salat. Without this takbir, your prayer will be invalid. It will be void. You don't even have to do Sujud Sahw if you don't do Takbiratul Ihram because you haven't started your salat. Takbiratul Ihram is what makes your salat established. You start your salat with Takbiratul Ihram. So no Sujud Sahw for Takbiratul Ihram, and it is one of the pillars for salat. So apart from Takbiratul Ihram, other pillars you can compensate, you can make up for other pillars with Sujud Sahw, except Takbiratul Ihram. Takbiratul Ihram will make your salat to be invalid. You have to do it. It is compulsory. Even if you forget, your salat will still be invalid because Takbiratul Ihram is what makes your salat established. Are you getting it? It's what starts your salat. That is the beginning of your salat, saying Allahu Akbar. Am I communicating? So, the third pillar of salat is the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha. So, saying Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahmanir Rahim is one of the pillars of salat. Another thing is bowing, the ruku'. That is also one of the pillars of salat. You need to be writing down these pillars so that you will know whenever you make mistake in the pillar that, oh, I have to do Sujud Sahw, except the Takbiratul Ihram. I told you no Sahw for Takbiratul Ihram because you haven't even started the salat. That is the first pillar of salat. And if you don't do it, your salat will be invalid. So after bowing, raising up from bowing is also from the pillars of salat. So raising up, Sami Allahu liman hamida, not the same. You standing from bowing is also part of the pillar of salat. And then prostration. Prostrating, sujud, is also part of the pillars of salat. Also, sitting between the sujud, julus bayna sajdatain, is also part of the pillars of salat. And also, being calm when praying, and also praying in order. Don't do sujud before ruku'. No. Making it in order is also part of the pillars of salat. And also, being calm, not rushing. You don't have to rush when praying. So that calmness is also part of the pillars of salat. And also, the last tashahud. What is tashahud? The last one you do before salam, that last tashahud is also part of the pillars of salat. Also, the salam alaikum is also part of the pillars of salat. And I remember from the tashahud, the last tashahud, the saying after Ashhadu Allah ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. The praises and blessings upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the last tashahud is also part of the pillars of salat. So, let's say for instance, you are doing the tashahud, atahiyatu lillah wa salawatu wa tayyibat, assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi salihin, ashhadu Allah ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. That Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, it is one of the pillars of salat in the final tashahud of your salat. It is one of the pillars of salat. And then the salam alaikum is one of the pillars of salat. So if you add to any of these pillars, let's say for instance, you are praying and then you added, and the pillars that if you added is the action pillars, the ones that requires act, not the one you are saying. If you added, maybe instead of you to do ruku once, you did it twice. Allahu Akbar, you bow, and then you forgot, you bow again. That is, you've increased, you've added another ruku to your salat. So that is because of Sujud Sahw. You have to do Sujud Sahw to compensate that addition, to make up for that addition. Are you getting it? So anything that makes you add to these pillars, we already know how to pray. So if you added something to the pillars, then you have to do Sujud Sahw. And also, If you remove anything from the pillars, let's say you forgot to do the ruku, or you forgot to recite Surah Al-Fatiha, or you forgot to do the Sujud, any omission, like you forgot anything you forgot from the pillars of Salat, then you have to do Sujud Sahw to make up for it. Are you getting it? And if you doubt from these pillars as well, then you have to do Sujud Sahw. So am I communicating? So you don't deliberately remove. If someone is praying now and he intentionally removed from the pillars of Salat, then that person, Salat will be invalid. You don't do that intentionally. You have to forget. So if a person praying had an additional pillars to the Salat will be invalid, except if it is due to forgetfulness. Are you getting it? Or if a person intentionally removed from the pillars of Salat, the Salat will be invalid, except if that is due to forgetfulness. So, if you remove from the pillars of Salat, your Salat will be invalid. But if you remove from it due to forgetfulness, then you have to compensate with Sujud Sahw, the prostration for forgetfulness. Are you getting it? So now, let's talk about the obligations. We've completed the pillars. Now you know the pillars of Salat. Now, the obligation. Obligation as well. If you remove deliberately, intentionally from the obligation of Salat, your Salat will be invalid. But if you do that due to forgetfulness, then you can compensate that with Sujud Sahw. What are the obligations of Salat? Majority of the scholars, they agreed that the first tashahhud is an obligation. So, and they said that is the only obligation in Salat. So the only obligatory for Salat is tashahhud al-awwal, the first tahiyya. Let's say in Salatul Dhuhr now, you are praying Salatul Dhuhr, then in the first 2 rakah, you sit down and say Atahiyatu lillah wa salawatu wa tayyibat, right? That tahiyya is what we call tashahhud, the first tashahhud. The last tashahhud, you remember, is pillars of Salat. While the first tashahhud, majority of scholars said that is the only wajib we have in Salat. That's the only obligation. While some school of thought, they said we have other obligations apart from first tashahhud. Some said the saying of Sami Allahu liman hamida. Some scholars says this is obligation of Salat. So if you forget it, you have to do Sujud Sahw. While some said that is not from the obligation, they said that is sunnah of Salat, saying of Sami Allahu liman hamida, Rabbana walakal hamdu, or the saying of Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Rabbik Firli. Some people count it as obligation, while some scholars count it as the sunnah. They count it as recommendation. If you do it, you will be rewarded. And if you don't do it, no need for Sujud Sahw. So depending on your own school of thought, you watching me, do you count saying of Sami Allahu liman hamida in your country as a must? If it is a must thing you must do, then that is an obligation to you. So if you forget to say it, you have to do Sujud Sahw for it. But if in your country you count it as you don't have to say it, then in your own school of thought, it means it is not obligation, then that is just sunnah to you, because most scholars, they all agree that we have one obligation, and that obligation is the first tashahhud, Atahiyatu lillah, the first one you do. They said that is the only obligation. And the Sami Allahu liman hamida and others, that is just sunnah. You don't have to say them. So depending on you, if you count it as wajib, as an obligatory, then you have to do Sujud Sahw. But if you don't count it as an obligation, you don't have to do Sujud Sahw. So if you forget to say the first tahiyya, instead of you to sit down for tashahhud, you just stood up immediately, forgetting to say the tashahhud. So if you forget it, that means you have to do Sujud Sahw because you've forgotten from the wajib of Salat. Are you getting it? So I'll be demonstrating that, inshallah, how to go about it in my next video. I just want you to understand that if you forget from the pillars, there is a need for you to do Sujud Sahw. If you forget from the obligation, there is a need for you to do Sujud Sahw. But if you forget from the Sunnah, like the recommendations from the Prophet, you don't have to do Sujud Sahw. So the ruling for pillars is different from the ruling of obligation. Are you getting it? But these two, both pillars and obligation, need Sujud Sahw for compensation. You have to do Sujud Sahw to make up for both pillars and obligation. Maybe in my next video, inshallah, I'm going to be demonstrating how to make up for a mistake when you make a mistake in the pillar, and how to make up for the mistake you make in the obligation. So, how to compensate for both are different. So, what I'll be mentioning last now is about the doubt. The doubt, the last reason or the last cause for Sujud Sahw. So, doubting, if you doubt during the Salat, have I prayed 2? Was it 3? You were not certain about it. Then you have to do Sujud Sahw, because that is one of the cause for Sujud Sahw. So there are 3 cases whereby you shouldn't bother even if you doubt in your Salat. Don't care about it. Just keep praying and you don't have to do Sujud Sahw, because in such case, your doubting is not real. Like it's just a devilish whispering, self-delusion, no reality for that. Are you getting it? Or in a case whereby a person can't pray except the person doubts. If that is your case, don't care about such doubting. Just keep praying and you don't have to do Sujud Sahw. Are you getting it? And the last doubt you shouldn't care about is the doubt that happened after you've completed your prayer. Like you've done the Salam Alaikum, Salam Alaikum. You've completed your Salat, and then that thought just came to you. As long as you are uncertain about the doubt, so don't bother. Just forget about it, except if you are certain. After you've completed your Salat and you are certain that something was not complete in your Salat, you have to complete it then, if you are certain. But if you are not certain, anything that makes you complete your Salat, any doubt that comes after completion of any ibadah, then don't care about such doubts. Unless you are certain. Are you getting it? So, inshallah, in my next video, I'm going to be talking about the demonstration of Sujud Sahw. How do you perform Sujud Sahw? If you miss from the pillars or you added to the pillars of Salat, how do you compensate? How do you perform it? Inshallah, I'll be telling you that and demonstrating it in my next video. So don't skip any of the episode. Ensure you watch the episode to the end so that you can understand everything about Sujud Sahw. So as for today, this is the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Barakallahu feekum. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.